All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Greening Our Hotels, our continuing series of green building training events. We're very pleased to have you with us. I wanted to just briefly go through the agenda today, and I will provide an introduction, also a business case for why do we build green hotels. And with that, I think the important thing is that we want to have, of course, an economic basis for doing it, as well as a moral and environmental basis for doing this, because we want to make sure that people have the capacity, that consumers are interested, consumers are willing to stay, and that business owners, investors, solution providers all have a reason to invest and to implement green building practices. I will be joined by a few different speakers in the introduction, and we'll hear from one of the Romania Green Building Council's founding members, the JW Marriott Grand, and they will speak, Ms. Meda Vasiliu and Mr. Radu Banu. Some very capable speakers will be explaining their green initiatives in this hotel. I'll also be joined later by my colleague, Mr. Sorin Ionescu. And Sorin is an expert in the hotel industry. And we met after finding that we were both very mutually interested in the hospitality industry and also of the green potential. And Sorin has done some research, and I'm sure you'll enjoy and find his presentation very valuable. And then later this morning, we'll have fiscal incentives, certification, and legislation to give you kind of some basis for why we have a good opportunity and also a necessity. And the speakers will be Ms. Dagmar Diwag and also Ms. Toma from the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development, and Mr. Dan Kotesh with a case study from an interesting hotel that has gone through a green certification in Romania. And then lastly, we will have an innovation showcase in the afternoon, and this will be led by our RoGBC colleague, Ms. Mihaela Nicolau, and she'll be joined by a team of experts who have some very interesting green building solutions that are available here in Romania now. This is not something for the future. These are practical solutions, and she'll go through that. And wanted to mention, during this, we'll have an opportunity to award free registrations to the Sustainable Construction Materials Conference on the 19th of March. So we'll reward people who are paying attention and who answer our questions. Many of you have seen these environmental graphs. This is basically per capita emissions of carbon and total world emissions. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I know many of you are very aware of the environmental situation. But just want to point out, this per capita emissions, you can see, have been leveling off. But really, just the total world population is a problem and that we're facing. And I've used this graph in a previous presentation, but what this shows is basically the small blue sliver is it's a measure of affluent in income, but it also is a good measure for the level of consumption that these consumers undertake. And as you can see, a small portion are consuming at the highest level. The vast majority, and this is if we assume 6.7 billion people on the planet, this red represents 3.5 billion of the planet, and they're consuming, and not at the highest levels, but they are rapidly moving towards that blue. And then the last portion is non-economic, basically people who are considered not to be consuming at any great level, but I think that this will change, and they will move upward in the development curve. And this is at 6.7 billion. We've heard estimates of 9 billion to 11 billion in the next 20 to 30 years of world population growth. And if you consider the numbers, that basically we have a situation where the sliver in blue will be asked, could be asked that they could not have the lifestyle that they're accustomed to. The red could be asked that they should stop developing because we don't have enough resources. And of course, creates problems for the yellow as well. So obviously, this is not a good situation. And there's a long debate about who should bear the responsibility and what should happen. The reality is we need to innovate our way out of it. We need to find ways that we can allow people to have nice lifestyles, economic opportunity, and at the same time aspire to better lifestyles, better economic opportunity. And so with all of this, I want to ask the question, who sets the timeline? Because we've heard at different levels of discussions exactly when we should, what we should do and when we should be doing it. And I would argue that maybe we're not the ones who get to determine when this needs to be done. Maybe we're going to find out, of course, that the natural resources don't really care so much about when we want to move forward in our plans. So the Romania Green Building Council is an association of businesses dedicated towards transforming the construction industry towards greener practices. And what we see ourselves as a voice for businesses that have identified themselves that this is important to them, and that we want to take a leadership stand in moving forward and really speeding up the timeline of our changes. And a lot of times people look to the government and can complain, but also business can be a serious obstacle to government that prohibits better legislation. So we want to show that we're asking for better legislation, we're asking for higher standards, and we're asking for a chance to contribute very quickly to a very important decision. I hope everyone can see this graph. It's very interesting. It's a kind of a graphic of all of the different activities that could be undertaken to save the planet. And if you look at some of them, everything from not flying to public transport to drying your clothes, which is interesting. It's more the traditional way rather than using electric dryers. Many different things, and I would argue this is going to define really the rest of our generation, our working lives, will be this transfer from carbon emission-based economy towards a clean energy economy and more energy efficiency. Now, how much that impacts us depends on how much we innovate and how much we move towards doing the right things and doing it better. And but this is really defining how we're going to do business. So when I talk about the business case for building green, I think a very important assumption is that this environmental crisis is going to cause a societal reaction. It has, and it will. It will cause a political reaction. It will cause a business reaction. And all of these need to be considered when you think of any medium-term, long-term business plan. And this is really what we're talking about here, is that we are facing significantly constrained resources, and we have a need to restore the environment, not only with all of this population growth ahead of us, but to go backwards and restore the damage that has already been done that we're facing, and to allow growth. And you can imagine it's quite a significant undertaking. And so that's something that we have to assume we're operating under, that business persons need to understand. Also, we want to talk about change, not deprivation. Really, as I mentioned, we don't want to take away lifestyles from people, and we don't want to prevent people from aspiring to lifestyles. So the best way to do that is to work on changing practices and not removing opportunities. Also, you'll hear today many of these solutions, it's about thinking more, not spending. And I think that's very important, because you'll see there's a lot of things in green building that the cost is negligible or even cheaper if well thought through and well planned. We've basically seen for the traveler's preferences that people are interested in green tourism, green hospitality offerings. One of the reasons we chose Marriott was based on their support and their willingness to move forward in green initiatives. So I think this is extremely important to us, and I think this trend will continue. I know there's some other events that have chosen the JW Marriott because of this, this was a reason for choosing it as a conference location. Other travelers, you've seen that they're starting to ask more. 75% in the US, a recent poll, were interested that the hotel's environmental policies was important to them, and they saw this as favorable. As you can imagine, considerably less when we ask the question, who will pay, will they pay more? 16% would be interested to pay more. But still quite a significant figure if people are willing on that alone to choose, when it used to only be location and star rating and amenities. This is just another article. There's many of them out today. This is the International Herald Tribune, one of the probably most popular international magazines. We talk also about eco-touring bloggers. What I mean by that are people that are very serious about the environment, but also that not only are they serious about the environment, but they go back and they write about it on their websites. Now you can imagine if you're holding yourself out as a green hotel and you're trying to attract these people, that you better have the green attributes of your hotel in good condition, or else you can expect that they're going to write about it. And of course, the return customers or new customers who read about this online will very quickly determine who is perceived to be a green hotel and who is not. Also, as we face a slowdown in business tourism or business travel and tourism, there's a need to differentiate and fight for market share. And as we've mentioned with this conference, how do you win a niche group that is growing very, very rapidly, who is interested in green event planning? And also we've seen in the media, Romanian media included, that this is a trend. There is definitely a feeling that people are waking up and seeing that green is an interesting option and something they want to know about, something they want to associate with themselves. And just to ask a quick question, I'm curious if anyone knows that it's a worldwide celebrity who has aligned himself with green building in the United States and is also a proponent of the rebuilding of New Orleans. And when you rebuild New Orleans, he wants to build it green. Does anyone have an idea who that might be? Might I remind you of the Sustainable Construction Materials Registration? Brad Pitt, as far as worldwide celebrities, we're doing quite well in the star factor for green building. He's very serious about it, and actually for a long time, not just recently, but has been a proponent of better architecture for a long time, and also been moving very seriously into green building. Here he's looking to build and consult on an eco hotel. And if Brad Pitt isn't your favorite celebrity, Leonardo DiCaprio is also building an eco hotel. So I think it's basically, you can see that definitely this is, as far as a trend and as far as public perception, these are very high-profile individuals, and but they've been very seriously aligned with green thinking. We're facing greater regulation and higher energy costs. Many of you know about the Energy Performance for Buildings Directive, which will put a grade on every building, every hotel that's designed. You'll get an A, B, C, D, worse. And this will advertise exactly the energy efficiency. This is important because when we talk later about investment into green building, one of the frequent replies of investors is they say that we won't make the investment because we're selling the hotel and whoever we sell it to won't know and they won't care. Well, this Energy Performance for Buildings Directive provides a grade and provides more market visibility to that buyer about the condition of the hotel. So I would argue that these investments now make more sense. Also, higher energy cost. I think pretty much all of us would agree that energy is low today or coming down from very high levels simply because of the economic crisis, and that we're in a situation where hopefully we solve and move forward very quickly, as quickly as possible out of the economic crisis, but we could find ourselves facing yet again a high energy price crisis as well. And with the financial crisis, it makes more sense when you're speculating on hotels and thinking about green urban planning principles. Where is your hotel located, and what does the community need this hotel? And these are all green building principles, and Soren will discuss this as well in some of his recommendations to clients and really evaluating this. But this is an important element of green building. And we're going to talk about green building cost. I think this, of course, the other question whenever we talk about green building is how much does it cost? Is it worth it? Does it pay back? I think one of the extremely important things to do first is to compare quality building with green building. Many times people will do cheap building and they'll cut corners, they won't follow the rules, they have an unsafe building, they have an uninsulated building, and if they were to look and say, if I were to do this green, well, it looks more expensive. Well, of course it is, but basically the rules are going to be harder to avoid. They are harder to avoid now, and they will be even harder to avoid. There'll be more information when you build poorly. So if we compare quality building to green building, the costs are negligible. And we can talk a little more details about that, but I think that's an important component. So just some numbers. The same construction cost or 2% to 4% higher. Now, I need to provide you a lot more information with those numbers. There's many different directions you can go, and there's other things that depend. You know, for example, if it's a new market and all of the solution providers are not available and you have to find them and source things, that this can increase cost. This, quite honestly, is one of the reasons for the Romania Green Building Council, to help develop the market and to bring solution providers and allow them to work with green builders and have an economic opportunity or an economic offering. Energy savings, 25 to 30%. Water, down 40%. Payback numbers in the range of 24 months for some green building investments. This is not something, some of the earlier perceptions about the green building, the expense of green building, have to do when the technology was new, the understanding of green building principles was less advanced, and we've really moved very far, and also we're moving far very quickly now, because I've said before, you know, for example, Silicon Valley, everybody has stopped making software and hardware in information technology and moved into green building, energy efficiency, green tech, and biofuels. So this is really moving things along there, and this has happened throughout Europe as well. Asia is the fastest growing green building market in the world right now. So all of this innovation is happening very quickly. It's bringing costs down, it's bringing understanding up, it's bringing risk down, because we know much more about the performance of buildings and how to build them. So the numbers look good. It's not, you know, when we talk about expense, you'll hear about something, a new feature that was put on the building that's incredibly expensive. But if we look at the more standard, more professional or normal, let's say, green building principles, they really correlate very much with just common sense and good project planning. I should say also, it's really a function of how early you get into the process. If you do the planning and think that you're going to build green very early on, it's quite good. This is an example of green building. This is a shading system, an automated system that directs light into the building, natural sunlight, It uses the sunlight for warming the building. It also uses it to control lighting. It adjusts the lighting downward. If the natural light doesn't require artificial light, it's basically a thinking building that uses, the building begins to act more like a plant, where it knows how to shade itself and react accordingly. It's a similar project. As we know, the hotel industry, and the numbers can be even smaller, on average renovates every 7 years, which is faster than average buildings. So this, if you look at all the materials, all of the furniture, everything in a hotel, it's quite considerable. So there's a huge opportunity to reduce impact if it can be done in a better way. Also, energy use can be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in many hotels, particularly in the common areas. So these are some very big opportunities to reduce environmental damage and energy use. We talk about renovation. This is a roof, affectionately titled an ugly roof, and this is how it was used. Alternative uses could be this. It could be providing hot water, as many of you are aware of this solution, but also a terrace. And this is usable space, and not only usable space, but this could be a differentiator for the hotel. Another view of a green roof. Here's the flooring that's been a sustainable option for changing the flooring in a building. So if you think about all that material that comes out and finding recycled material, sustainably grown material, it has a huge opportunity. You'll hear later today from JW Marriott Grand about their initiatives, and that's a very local example. We'll talk about some other major hotels. I think most people know Wyndham. They're the brand owner or the management company for Westin, for the W hotels, if people are familiar with that. St. Regis, I believe, is another. What they've done is taken some steps. These are the uniforms for the hotel. Recycled plastic is the material. It goes into the material. And I understand from what I read, they're comfortable and basically received strong feedback from the staff. But the important thing is that this really reminds the staff daily of the green initiative. Some others in Romania, Ramada, doing some things with building management systems, which you'll hear about some of those systems today. And this is basically more intelligent buildings. Howard Johnson's everything from the towels that they use and different materials, but it's going on. Starwood is coming to Romania. What they have is there's a new offering. It's called Element, and what this is it's a green building designed from the inception. Or sorry, a green hotel designed from the inception. So this is what it looks like. And I'll read a few of these because I know it's hard to see. But basically, you have things such as sustainable forested wood in the bed frames, three-way CFL or compact fluorescent lights and LEDs, the latest lights, cushions from the furniture made from soy, and basically the artwork uses recycled content on the wall to be a base for the artwork. Also, what's interesting, filtered water. So they're doing away with the plastic water bottles, and they've utilized a water filtering system. Low VOC paints, quite a few things. This is already in place. It's a pilot in Massachusetts for the hotel, but they're rolling out this one. This is from a Romanian entrepreneur and also a technical advisor to the Romania Green Building Council, a very interesting concept in hotels. It's a prototype that's functional. The hotel has not been built, but this is one possibility. These are obviously geodesic domes, but they use natural lighting and really what's called cradle-to-cradle thinking, or the idea that you design something at its inception in order to consider its whole life and its potential reuse. So this would be from sustainable materials and low energy or near passive house standards, which is one of the highest standards of green buildings. And this could be, for example, in an eco-hotel. This would be obviously a very modern style of eco-hotel, but this could be a very low-impact hotel and at low construction cost. It's an interior of one of the modules. I'd like to know if people, we have Marriott here, so we won't have them talk about that, but others have other examples of green building initiatives in hotels that others have heard of. We'll get warmed up. You've decided that if we've convinced you to build green, well, how do you do it? I mean, there's obviously some steps. As we've talked about, change and not deprivation. We're looking basically that how can we do this in a way that really brings the benefits without the cost. And the change, if you have to change your organization, the design of your hotels, how it operates, the supply chain, there's a lot of change to drive through that organization. Now, today the scope is not to talk so much about change management, but I wanted to very briefly talk about a very interesting model. This is by Professor John Cotter from Harvard Business School, and is one of the world leaders or recognized experts in organizational change. He has his 8 steps to change. And the first step in an organization, and this could be in a hotel, is to create a matter of urgency. And we're fortunate we have multiple crises to go on to create that urgency, which we have an economic crisis, we have an environmental crisis, we have an energy crisis. And I would even add to that, we have a fast-growing level of consumer concern about all of these issues. So we have the urgency. That's not important, or it doesn't need to be established. It's been established for us. And we have the basis for change. One of the next steps is to form a powerful coalition, basically to have executive leadership, but also some of the key influencers in the organization who believe in that concept and will support the change. To create a vision for that change, to bring it all together and really form it into a statement that can be communicated, the next point, to the staff. Also removing obstacles. A good example in a greening of a hotel project is in the purchasing side, is that you have a lot of purchasing relationships between the existing vendors and the operations of the hotel. Well, what you need to do is work with the partners, and if you can convince them that you're not severing all of the ties, but that you're pushing them to provide greener options, and it's a business opportunity for them as well, this can help remove an obstacle to changing the operation and the purchasing and the procurement of a hotel. Create short-term wins, what we call in the consulting business before, we would say quick wins, but basically demonstrating some benefits to your staff and your customers, the results of your green initiatives. And these can be as simple as trading out using recycled paper, communicating to your staff and to your customers some simple measures to begin with. Building on that change, obviously the quick wins are just a start. You have to keep embedding more and more change, and then to anchor the change in corporate culture. So again, I won't spend too much time. This is very interesting, I think, for someone undergoing this in a hotel or operationally. I think it's a very good model, and more details can be found just on the website searching for Cotter and change. We also talk about thinking, not spending. We at the Romania Green Building Council have been pushing for better green finance options. And what that means is basically taking the saved energy cost over the life of a building and allowing it to be used to receive funding at the beginning of the project. Because when we talk about cost, and cost, what does a building cost more, or do these solutions cost more? We have to start thinking in terms of upfront investment. Because some things that have very low upfront investment have very high cost. And so in this case, when we talk about green finance, what we're looking to do is get the hospitality industry preferential financing to make investments that are more environmentally responsible and more energy efficient. And the reality is we all win. We simply pay back the loan using the savings, the energy savings, over the life of the loan. So it's really something I'm personally very surprised how it's still not taken advantage of. I mean, we have all sorts of creativity in financial innovation, and we've seen the disastrous results of some of that recently. But when it comes to green finance, there's a few organizations that are promoting it, but it's really not so widespread. And I think this is actually one of the biggest green building opportunities, is using the power of investment, borrowing money, and then paying the money back with the energy savings over the life of the loan. It opens up many possibilities, and this is something we know we have a immediate concern with credit and getting credit flowing again in really all economies, but this is something that we're promoting, and I think can be very helpful for green hotel projects. Also, utilize your customer. Communicate your green initiatives, because if the concern in a hotel is that they are inconvenienced or that they don't have something, or that something has changed, communication to the customer can change them from being disappointed to being very appreciative of the steps the hotel has taken, and starts a dialogue with the customer. Also, making your suppliers your green partner. And as we have times when business is more of a challenge, this is an excellent time to talk to your suppliers and ask them to earn your business by making their products greener. And this is one of the member companies, a founding member of the Romania Green Building Council, had put in these chairs from Steelcase, environmental product. They have a better profile than most furniture. And basically, you have to ask and ask them for this stuff, and let them come up with it. A few weeks ago at our last training, I mentioned that we had certificates that we awarded, but we didn't have the physical certificate. So unfortunately, we still don't have the physical certificate, and here's the reason why. We wanted to find a true environmental solution to print the certificates. We do have a solution now. They're not ready now. But I'm using this excuse, but I'll try to turn it into a learning. As we see it, this was an example where we went to our supplier, who had been supplying us previously, and they had given us recycled paper, and now we asked for something more. And it took some effort, and they adjusted, and now we'll have what we need. And going forward, they are going to have an offering to offer, for example, to all of the member companies of the Romania Green Building Council, who I can promise you are all interested in procuring green paper, green stationery, green supplies. So this was an example. We simply asked. And when I would encourage everyone, when you think through your purchasing, if you just ask, is it green? Can it be greener? What's the profile? We'll talk a little bit about food procurement as well as another option. This more thinking, when it comes down to, rather than spending, what about the available resources? With the internet, with multinational groups, organizations that do a lot of environmental research, there's a lot of information that you can access. In this case, WWF has a lot of information on sustainable procurement. So I talk about asking your supplier. Well, there's, for example, in Romania and in the Black Sea region and in the Danube Delta region, there's fish that should not be fished. It's very clear. It's not, you know, it's an endangered species. And you can simply find out and ask and say, what should we not include? And then again, communicate this to the guest and communicate this to the hotel goer, that these are what you offer, that they're sustainably sourced, and that unfortunately this is not available, and here's why. Because if that person really likes their fish, now is not the time to be eating it. So I don't think, you know, if they really thought through their actions and they were communicated their actions, then they would understand. And so, but use the resources here. They have a tremendous amount of knowledge, and this can be taken, I used an example with food, but in all sorts of procurement, they've done some activities. Another example, again, WWF, we've had a very nice partnership. Sustainable construction is one of their areas of focus this year as well. And they've rolled out Earth Hour, and this was an initiative, I'm not quite sure when it started, but it's definitely been growing. I know it was started in Sydney. And March 28th this year at 8:30 p.m., they're encouraging people to turn off the lights for 1 hour, just to think about climate change. Now, this could also be an event at a hotel. And so what we will be doing is working with our member companies, the Romania Green Building Council, to consider joining this effort. And this is something that it's out there and it's available, and we can get you details as well. But it can also communicate very clearly to your customers that this is something important to you. So we talk about business case basics. Next generation of business is defined by significantly constrained resources and restoring the environment, as I mentioned earlier. This is really how we're going to be proceeding going forward. Instead of deprivation, there's an alternative. What would that alternative be? It's in the notes. Raise your hand if you would. Anyone? Sustainable construction materials. The thing is transferable if you don't want to go. I would say change as well. We'll cut you some slack. Spending, or what's the other alternative? Gentlemen in green. Thinking, there we are. We'll get your business card and we'll send you what you need. Okay, so we're warming up here. Okay, well anyway, that's what I had, but thank you for the opportunity to present, and if anyone has questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'd like to turn it over to Meda and Radu for your presentations, and look forward to hearing that.